You're tuned into The Rock, and our main topic of discussion today is about marriage. Post all your commits, every single one of them, about marriage on our Facebook and YouTube live versions of The Rock, and send us a WhatsApp message with your thoughts on marriage to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Rock. You know, I was with one of my uncles the other day, and he was sharing with me how they've been married for 58 years. And of course, my parents, they're doing 56. So that tells you how young I am. Well, prepare to call in and be a part of the discussion today. And let's talk about that all important topic. But before we talk about marriage, let's discuss today's now time revelations issue, which is the growth of Halloween within the Christian community. This is The Rock, and with me are two men of God, Bishop Cleon Grandison and Daniel Dodd. Daniel is back already, having only appeared a couple of weeks ago for the first time, and he's the bravest man to reappear so soon on The Rock. He's currently a student at the JTS, Jamaica Theological Seminary, and he's a youth advocate for the constituency of St. Catherine, West Central, president of Kingdom Ambassadors, global and youth leader for the Spanish Town Youth for Christ organization. Well, we'll have Daniel. He's going to be with us, but also with us today, Bishop Grandison is the current administrative bishop of the New Testament Church of God in England and Wales. He's a Brit. I hope he has a British accent. I'm going to tease you today, Cleon. He was actually born in North London, England, but migrated with his family to Jamaica when he was very young. He accepted Jesus Christ as his personal savior at the age of 14. He attended the Waltham Park Road New Testament Church of God in Jamaica. After a short stint in the British Virgin Islands, he returned to England in 2003. Many accomplishments later, Cleon Grandison is now worthy of his repeat appearance on The Rock, married to supportive lady Sonia, aka wife. That's what I have in my phone for my wife. I just have a wife. And he's father of two, boasting a successful former career as a banker. Bishop Grandison is now on a mission to see the church become relevant and relational in how it connects with its members and the wider community. Gentlemen, Halloween and the church. Your thoughts? I'll start with you, Bishop Grandison, because they always talk about Halloween and the Celtics. So I guess you would hear quite a bit about it over there.
Yeah, well, let me just add one more string to my bow. Recent author, and I'll tell you about that later.
Okay.
But I recently wrote my first book. But yeah, Halloween. That's quite an interesting one, and good to be with you, Steve, and my good friend. I've forgotten your name. Just missed it. Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Daniel.
Yeah, well done for your accomplishments. Halloween, it's one of those things that it's been very popular in the UK, where you have children coming out and being sometimes a nuisance, knocking on doors and calling trick or treat. And what they do is they come to get sweets or to get candy, as you call it there in Jamaica. It's quite innocent to the children, but there is a darker connotation as to what Halloween is all about. And I think what we've done is we've engaged children in something that has a very sinister roots in terms of a celebration of the dead. I am not for it, but rather than become someone who attacks those who celebrate Halloween, my thing is to have an alternative, and I can probably talk about that later.
Well, we just have a few minutes for this discussion. Daniel, your thoughts on Halloween?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with him. Personally, I don't believe that a lot of people have a true idea of what Halloween is all about. Again, it seems innocent, especially for children and younger teens. And a lot of people don't have the light of what the deep roots the aspects of what Halloween really comes from, and so people just do things without a proper background. I believe it's very demonic, and it goes against the Judeo-Christianic view of our time. So, yeah, definitely.
But Pastor Cleon, the though it had an early beginning uh, in paganism, the church of the time, as with most paganist holidays, they started the All Hallowed Day. They had all of these celebrations to replace that, and there's so many sides to this that even here, because I'm in the U.S. preaching right now. Even here at the moment, some churches celebrate it because of the history from the church's point of view. But at the same time, we know that Satanists always love to have some form of counterfeit to do what they do.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things that get slipped in subtly, and there are going to be ramifications as a result of those who become greater, more and more engrossed in Halloween and become victims of the darker side. What churches in the UK have been doing is having an alternative, calling it something totally different, not All Hallows, but giving children an option other than going out trick and treating and using it as a means to give God praise. And so rather than have a campaign against those who are celebrating Halloween, we decided to go on the not even the offenses, to go on the attack and to basically have an alternative, and it seems to be working quite well.
Yes, yes. And that's what I mentioned earlier. And some people don't like when churches create an alternative to something, but there's a need for that. But the Catholic Church at one point, as they started the All Hallowed and All Saints holiday, instead of having that which the Celtics had begun, they really pushed this holiday, and it's almost been taken back by the paganists um, with their satanic celebrations. Just at my house here, where I am in Orlando, I saw kids out celebrating. I saw kids out looking for their candy, and of course, in their mind, there's nothing satanic about it. In the minds of the parents that were out there, there's nothing satanic. But we want people to be aware, because this is one of the most dangerous times of the year in terms of the satanic festivals and children going missing.
Hmm.
Well, if I can just jump in quickly, and I can't say for certain that the two are related. Whenever we have Halloween, murder rates, in knife killings in certain areas, it escalates. Halloween is about blood, about sacrifice, and somewhere interspersed in all of this, there is I think, a sinister motive in all of this. I feel that the enemy, the devil, does capitalize on this kind of lifting up of the demonic and intervenes.
Very true. So we want to encourage people. Um, Daniel, what do you see in Jamaica with young people and Halloween?
Well, I won't say it's highly revered here, but I do see that in some places where it is actually celebrated, and there are actual parties that keeps various themes under the umbrella of Halloween. Again, it's not so much of a popular thing here in Jamaica, in my opinion. But of course, there are aspects of society that does celebrate this tradition.
Yeah, I know you say there's not much of a thing there, but I'm sure when I was looking at maybe the Gleaner this morning, not because I'm looking at the Observer now, I don't see it, but I'm sure I saw a big Halloween party in the paper this morning,
Oh
um,
my.
and all the young people are going to turn up for that. What I think what we do need to say to people is there are going to be celebrations in every way across the world for different events, but be aware of the origins and the things that happen even in the modern days regarding these celebrations. Because one of the things I've noted since I first went to school in America was the many missing children. And the saying that because of the satanic movement, a lot of these children disappear because of sacrifices. As Pastor Cleon mentioned a while ago, Bishop Cleon, Grandison mentioned a while ago, there is blood. There's a need for blood. All right, we're gonna take a break and come back, and we're gonna get ready for our big show on marriage. A lot to talk about on this, a lot to write on this, and you'll hear from my guest in just a few minutes right here on The Rock on Love 101. Okay, welcome back to The Rock. Welcome back. I just want to let you know this is going to be a great show. And maybe you should call some people right now and let them know two things. Two things. One, we're talking about marriage, and a lot of people may be having marital problems. We're going to talk about a lot of things about marriage. But secondly, if you're from the New Testament church, especially because this guy on this program with this new book, Bishop Cleon Grandison, he's a big guest here today. So call out your friends, let them know. I see somebody wrote in the comments, one of the people watching the program, Miss Pat says, "I see you, Bishop Grandison." Well, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. If there's a topic you'd like to discuss, if there's a topic that may have the church on different sides of the fence, I'm going to ask you to give me a call if you want to discuss these things, or if you want to just talk about what's happening. If you want to be a guest on the program, or if you have a topic, give me a call, 876-295-9141, and I'll be able to get your ideas, give them to our producer, Kathy Gale. And you can also write me to transformjamaica@hotmail.com, transformjamaica@hotmail.com, and you'll be a part of sharing on this program the things that can make a difference for our country. Well, the topic this morning, marriage. Why bother get married? How much of marriage is for the sake of God's instruction or man's laws? What does the Bible say? My guest today, once again, Bishop Cleon Grandison and Daniel Dodd. Good day, gentlemen. Welcome to the program again. And this time we talk the real thing, the real deep thing. I see Daniel with probably a lot on his mind as we talk about marriage. Daniel, a lot of young people thinking about marriage out there. A lot of people want to add to their lives and become one, have companionship. Before I go to Bishop Cleon Grandison to just tell us what marriage really is, what do you think is a thought of young people, young Christians out there regarding marriage? Is it just something to help them get to the point where they can have sex, no fornication kind of thing? I'm not hearing you. You're muted. You're muted. Yes.
You're able to hear me now. Great. Awesome. So that's a very good question. And I personally believe so. Definitely in this culture where everything is almost sexually driven. You're seeing in advertisements, you see it on TV shows and stuff. And this kind of paints a picture of just how would I put this? Just outside sexual intercourse, which is not a part of the covenant of God, which God really created and stuff. So people being bombarded by so many of these content, it does paint a picture of certain expectations that they're looking forward to have in marriage. And of course, the believers, I believe that it affects us as well. And so for those who I have encountered, sad to say, these are the things which is on their mind in terms of, okay, I can't wait to get married to really get this over with. You know, the struggle is real, the lusting is real. You know what I mean? That whole idea of even, you know, just masturbation, it's real. And so this is something which is very prevalent within our young people, and I don't believe that our young people do have a sense or an idea of what marriages ought to be.
So let's go to the bishop. Bishop, help the young people, help Jamaica, help our Christians, help our people. What is marriage all about? What is marriage?
Well, I'm trying to help myself. I mean, I've been married for 30 years. This year we celebrate 30 years as husband and wife, and it is for procreation, as Daniel said, and we do it so that we can bring children, we can populate the kingdom of God. But it's also for the enjoyment. I think it was I think it was Solomon who speaks about enjoying the wife of your youth
Yeah.
and ravishing her and allowing her to ravish you, etc., etc. So those things are very, very important. But I do also think that marriage, as Daniel said, is really about covenant. And when we stood before an altar, what we basically said is, regardless of what happens, I won't leave you. And it's
Yeah.
that coming together of two people who are saying, I am willing to go through whatever happens to stick by your side and to be the person who is going to protect you and cover you in
Mm.
sickness and health. And I've been through the sickness and health journey, and it's made me appreciate my wife even more. So after a while, we get to my age, it's not as as you young guys, but the important thing is that consistency of being loving and
Yeah.
being that type of person. Your lives, after a while, we both get to a place where we are no longer as shapely and as fit and even virile as we were in the old days. But it's that we appreciate each other regardless of what has happened over the course of time.
The worldview can be very shaky when you look at it. Just looking at going to WikiLeaks or to Britannica or to some of these things this morning, it looks at marriage as a social union or a legal contract between people called spouses, and that creates a kinship. And there's a tendency as somebody who does visas for a living, where people talk about their common law marriage or common law unions, and for them that is enough. But the thing is that this is much more than just a social union. Cleon?
Yes, it is more than just a social union. It is. I mean, I believe that family is the bedrock of any society, and then marriage is the bedrock of family. It is what ensures, in my humble estimation, that families stay together.
Yeah.
Uh, the common law thing means that I can jump ship whenever I feel like it. There is the infamous stories of the baby father, baby mother syndrome, and someone having someone in every parish. And, those are the things that will cause for families and societies to break down because there is no domicile. We're not we're not settled in one place with one family, and even though that even though people who aren't married do have families and do stay faithful to one person, even though they're not married, in the main, it is the marriage covenant, I believe, that really keeps people together. And you mentioned your parents being married for 56 years, and your uncle for a lot longer. You know, um, it's there's something about marriage covenant that gives that sort of security?
Daniel, when young people hear the word contract or covenant, does it scare them? Because you think about marriage today, and Bishop Grandison mentioned the covenant, which means you have something to hold you together.
Yeah.
But people today don't even think about what do I do or how do I handle the problems. They have their friends, and their friends said, leave the man, leave the man.
Uh-huh.
How do young people view that word covenant in terms of marriage?
It's a very tough question. In my opinion, I believe there is a lot of self-centeredness amongst our young people, a lot of individualism, if I may put it that way. And people or young people don't really understand the value of self-sacrifice, because when it comes on to covenant, you're giving of yourself, you're thinking outside of yourself, right? And it's like you're putting yourself on a platter to be offered up. And so when our young people thinking about covenants and marriages, it's almost as if um it's like a baggage, so to speak. I'm going to be bound to this person. There's limited free will for me do what I want to do, type of thing. That's the type of mentality, if we're going to be real. And so if our young people aren't really educated on the benefits of marriage and why is it important for you to keep a covenant, the mindset to how our young people have nowadays, it will always remain the same. And so this is a prevalent thing, as I said, and our young people don't have the um, stick to it type of mentality, to say, okay, I will see this through.
Yeah, because obviously, Bishop Grandison, many of those who have done their 50, 60 years, 70 years will tell you that many times they probably even thought about not sticking to it. But because of the fight towards the keeping that covenant, they're still together today.
Yeah, Steve, that's so true. I think the generation gone by, um, I think their values were very different. To be perfectly honest, there are people who stay together who weren't necessarily in love, but they felt a strong sense of covenant. Today, the well, I think 50% of marriages don't last, and that's very telling. And we live in a generation that says, I don't need to put up with this. And it's not just young people. Daniel, I'm not going to be hard on your generation.
Yeah,
It's not
that's
just young people. It's people my age. I've seen guys doing very well, and then they get to a certain age, and then they want to wear a nice bright red jacket and get a sports car, and all of a sudden they take one
They
trip to
feel young again.
that's
and they're young again, and all of a sudden the wife of the youth is of no more use, and it's so. I mean, I would say that you know we can be blindsided at any season of our lives when it comes on to marriage, and so my thing is keep the marriage fresh. You just keep your wife. The other day, I'll tell you something. The other day, I decided to go out and buy my wife some jewelry, just spontaneously brought it home, gave it to her, and she spent a whole hour asking me, "What's wrong? What do you do? Why are you buying this? What?" Because as far as she's concerned, there must have been something why you're buying this jewelry. I said, "No, you deserve it, because we've been together, and it wasn't any special occasion, but just the fact that, hey, you're my wife, the love of my life, and." Things like those will really help us to grow in our relationship, be spontaneous, and be creative.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing though. Can we really blame our young people to have this type of mentality? Because we naturally adopt, and basically mimic traditions of what has gone past. In other words, looking onto our parents, because the marriages within the home of our society, it's not so strong, right? So the ripple effects of what we're seeing now and how our young people view marriage, or how people view marriage overall, is how it is, basically. We can't really say, hey, it's really off them per se, but it is coming from somewhere.
Well, I take my hat off to your generation, and I tell you why. Because many of you have come up in one-parent families, and
Yeah.
you have decided to not follow that stereotype. You
Mhm.
have, and I'm watching young people. You're saying, "Listen, I'm gonna make an honest woman out of this person I'm dating," and I take my hat off to you. But listen, your generation is plagued with social media. All
Ah.
everywhere around you, you're seeing images, you're seeing celebrities who are just swapping partners like underwear. And
Bishop Grandison,
sorry,
let's take a break.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm
No,
being
let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the realities, before the realities going into a marriage and also the prerequisites. But we'll take a break. We'll come right back. Welcome back to The Rock. I'm Bishop Harold Steve Blair, and we're discussing marriage today. With me are two wonderful men, young men, Daniel Dodd and also Bishop Cleon Grandison, the New Testament Church of God bishop in the UK. Bishop Grandison was going into a topic that I wanted to look at, and so in the next few minutes before the 11 o'clock break, Bishop Grandison, certainly there's some issues that are affecting us today, affecting marriages today, as people get into marriage. One of which is that all important thing of not having examples, not having a father around. So we have women who go into a marriage not knowing how to talk to a man, respect a man, deal with a man. We have people going into marriages not having examples of a marriage. And so many of them enter it without any kind of counseling. Go ahead and speak to that issue today.
Okay, so I think what I need to first and foremost do, I came on here calling you Steve.
I'm Steve. I'm Steve. I'm Steve.
No, listen, no, respect to you, Bishop Steve. Oh my word, I can see all of your listeners picketing to say, no, who is this man? No, but listen, big respect to you. No, when I prepare couples for marriage, I don't call it counseling. Counseling is for crisis. We call it marriage conversations, and they last a good. Well, we have at least 6 or 7 sessions, and we talk about everything. Bishop, we go into every area of. I'm not just talking about sex, even though that's something we do have to have that conversation. But you just mentioned about women knowing how to talk to men, but a lot of our men don't know how to talk to women, and so we have to have those conversations about how do we communicate. So when, say for instance, a woman will be asking you 101 questions about something, the reason why she's doing so is because any vision you're carrying, she's about your fearing, she's about to carry that in the womb of her spirit. Even when you give up and you've become discouraged and say, no, this is not going to work. She's listen, she's getting enough information to make sure that whatever happens, this vision is going to come full term. And I can speak from experience. There were times in ministry when I became very discouraged. But my wife with the womb basically said, no, these are the things you shared with me. And this is where we're going to go. And it's so important that we take time to share with the women in our lives what's on the inside. Communication, big thing. If we can't get that right, then we're in trouble.
I see that smile, Daniel. What's on your mind?
Well, they say if you give a woman a sentence, she'll give you a paragraph. You give her a kid, she'll give you a baby. And in fact, it is true. It is true. Whatever you deposit within a woman, Of course, that is what you get back. And she's like a prophetess. She reminds you of what your vision is, what you're looking forward to do. At the end of the day, she's the helper, right? I do agree with my dear brother in Christ here, and of course, definitely, a lot of people needs to be aware of this, especially for us as men. I don't believe that most men are mentored in the capacity to learn how to really communicate. And speaking from my little experience, I have had the opportunity to be mentored by other persons on how to communicate with other persons. And let me put this out there for us as believers. It's not because you're coming from a Christian home means that you're going to have everything being taught to you, right? And especially for us as pastors' kids, I'm a pastor kid, I'm a PK, right? It's
Welcome.
not everything. If I'm going to be true, it's not everything that was really taught to me, and sometimes we have to take on a responsibility to learn how to go about navigating relationships and dealing with people.
Um, I hear you speaking, and I really was jumping on Bishop Grandison, his train earlier. I know when I met him 30 odd years ago, I would have also met his parents, and what they shared. The thing for me as I live in Jamaica is meeting people who don't have the examples. Young boys don't have their fathers around. Young girls don't have their fathers around. Many are born out of wedlock, and it's become the norm.
Mhm.
But people don't realize that the statutes of God are for a purpose. And as Bishop said earlier, the essence of a successful country is well, the basis and the foundation of our nation is family.
Mhm.
So I'm finding men who have no respect for women because all they've seen is a mother shouting at them, and
Yeah.
they feel a woman don't have the right to shout at them. But they love their mother, but they'll take it out on their wife. And we've seen so much domestic abuse. We've seen so many other things. So I'm trying, Bishop, in the next 3 to 4 minutes before the break, to just touch on the depth of this in a country like ours, where people don't realize that their mentality, their mindset is not geared to become one.
Well, I mean, I people like yourself, radio personalities, TV entertainers who are Christians, pastors, community leaders, who are in committed relationships, honoring God. Believe it or not, you are setting the tone for
Mm.
relationships in Jamaica. There are men and women, young people who are saying, so the young people over here, they're always in our space. They're always coming to our home, young people. I mean, I stopped pastoring a church, for a little while back, and there's some people from my old church who have told these young ladies who said, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, when I'm getting married, you're the person who's going to marry me. I said, I'm already married, so I can't marry you. But anyway, but they look at me and Sonia and they talk about marriage goals. So
Yeah.
they see some things and they said, listen, they see me and my wife, they see us arguing. And the argument turns into banter, and the banter turns into laughter, and they realize that it is not a problem to have disagreements and to have fallouts, but there's that cycle of being able to make up and to come full circle and not hold. I don't do anything to sabotage my wife. She doesn't do anything to sabotage me, because we are one person. And if I send her out damaged, then that's the people see me and not just my wife.
All right,
Mm.
we're gonna take a break. We're gonna take a break and come right back. I guess the saying that I'll throw out there to many of you who are thinking about marriage, the fairy tale and the wedding. Here's my statement to you: your awesome, very expensive wedding is not your marriage. We'll be right back. Right after this break. Ah, welcome back. You know, if I had the opportunity to save every marriage in the world, that would be my target, because so much happens where people walk away from a lifetime. I won't say a lifetime of happiness, because they want happiness, and their search for happiness is in the wrong channels. Let me give you two statistics before I go back to my guess. Um, Marriage carries a significant impact on our society. Studies indicate that married couples often enjoy better physical and mental health, higher levels of happiness, and financial stability. Um, at the same time, children raised in married households tend to fare well academically, emotionally. Marriage can promote a sense of responsibility and community, strengthening the social fabric, and the benefits of marriage are well documented and contribute to the overall well being of our societies. As I come back to my two very special guests, our Jamaican society, gentlemen, is one filled with many people who live together but will not get married. Maybe before I go into asking the question about marriage versus common law, um, let me go back to Bishop. I'm pulling on you very strongly, Bishop. I'm going to call you Cleon, so maybe you'll call me Steve. uh, it's it's so funny how Cleon and I met, but that's another story. Mutual friend, very wonderful person. But let me just say this, Cleon, why does something like common law um, prosper? When I say prosper, let me not use the word prosper, but take over the landscape of a country like ours, where people will live together 10, 15 years and not get married.
Um, I think, okay, I have to be careful now because I have so many family and friends who
Let,
are
let,
in
let me let me let me turn the question. Let me go back to the right question. Common law versus marriage. Let's start there. Sir.
Yeah, well, I mean, marriage trumps common law any day. I make no apology for that, but I'm not here to put down anyone in a relationship that isn't a marriage, because, as I said before, there are fathers out there who are doing their best. They're looking after their families, raising their children, and even more so than in a marriage. However, a lot of these, I think many are quite often one of the reasons why they don't go for marriage is because there is no, let me say, pressure from one party to say, let's make this official. These are the same men who will go to America, and as the first person they find, them married to them because they can get to stay. So they're not opposed to marriage. It's just because it's probably not convenient, or the expense, or why go through the bother. But the truth of the matter is that marriage, it does make a huge impact on the relationship. When I counsel couples who come to faith, one gets saved and the other isn't. Quite often, when the wife gives, or the girlfriend gives an ultimatum, say, you know what, I want to serve God, and if you're not going to support me, then we're going to go our separate ways. And when he realizes what he's going to have to give up, what he's going to lose, quite often they'll step across that line and do the right thing. But at the same time, I do believe that we have to encourage these men. It's a big step. They sometimes feel that getting married is going to curse the relationship. No such thing. But again, it will take, it doesn't matter how long people have been together, they still need to go through a period of counsel and conversation and preparation. That's my opinion, Steve.
Daniel, what are you seeing out there amongst your young friends in terms of their confidence in something like marriage?
Mm.
Are they running in that direction of wanting to, in the church we call it shack up, or become common law spouses?
Interesting question. Though I cannot give a full on statistics, but based on what I have seen, and within my community, yes, there are persons who are interested in marriage, but at the same time, on a broader view, I believe a lot of people cling to their sense of independence, and there is this, yes, ideology of not really so being covenanted, but yes, being in a relationship without having strings attached. Yes, right. A lot of our young people want flexibility, right? Nobody wants to be tied down, and so there's, as I said before in the previous segment, there's this sense of self-centeredness, and so our young people want to have a sense of freedom and a level of autonomy to just do what they want to do. That is what I am getting from our young people within our society nowadays.
So Bishop Cleon, why why get married if the government says to me that if I live with a woman after 5 years, she has all the benefits of being my spouse?
Mm,
Um,
Well, that's the law of the land in Jamaica. Um,
right.
you know,
Mm.
and so some people just feel, why go further than here if the government says I'm a legal spouse after 5 years? In Canada, it's 1 year.
Mm. Mm. Well, I guess if you see marriage as just a contract or something that's transactional, then that's where you go for. If you see marriage as more of a covenant and something, a promise to someone to say that um, I I will stay with you and stick with you and you with me for the entirety of our lives, and in that process I will love you. I will care. You see, the thing is, the contract that we're talking about in the 5 years, it. I have a get out clause if someone falls fatally ill, if they fall on hard times, whatever. I can walk away. Sometimes we have nothing to offer each other than just ourselves, and
mm,
people walk away from individuals in difficult times. Sometimes it's an affair, and you know some people will stay and work things through and rebuild trust, whilst some will just walk away. And I think marriage covenants will basically say, I will love you beyond the
yeah,
sort of
times. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Boy, I tell you, this thing is very important. I've seen people just walk away, and I like being transparent. So
Mm,
I'm in my second marriage, and my first wife, she lives in England, a wonderful person, um, and she would have said to me several years after our divorce, um, maybe she wasn't ready for it, um, and about 9 years, 8 years, 9 years after they left, she called and said, "Why did I not wait?" So the issue now, as we go in depth into marriage and the prerequisites, is a lot of people are not ready. They they've not taken the time to get the what did you call it? It's not the counseling, it's the what?
Of conversations.
Con-
marriage,
they've not
marriage
had the
conversations.
conversations. They get married because they tell each other they love each other or they're in love. But my theory is, if you're in love, you can't fall out of love. So we've
Mm,
got to find where that love has been transferred to. So help us now as we start looking at the prerequisites. As you say you have 7 or 8 sessions. I normally have about six, and I start with uh, the female first because they will talk more, and then I do the male, and then I might go back to one or two before I go to the two of them. But when you're talking with people about becoming husband and wife, no longer boyfriend, girlfriend, or engaged, what are the prerequisites that you bring to them as they think about that uh, social life changing event?
Is that to me or to Dan?
Oh, to you, to you.
Okay. Well, to be honest, people come to you at different stages. Um, you get people who come, and you can see that one person is very set in their ways. They've lived a single life for a while, and they're very independent. It can be male or female. And what you have to do is start to break down those walls of independence, because a marriage cannot be too you cannot exist as two wholes. You have to become one. And I address everything from bank accounts to everything. And trust me, whenever we start to talk about money, that's the one area that people don't want you to touch, because women always have that kind of that vex money, that just in case, just in case I've got a little thing put aside. But over the years, I've learned to, everything I have, my wife has, and everything she has. So I basically try to ensure that there is this willingness for the two people to come together and to put down or to pull down the barriers, the things that holding on to this independence. I want to still hold on to an aspect of my life and not necessarily share that. We're sharing everything, and some even old debts, everything. We bring everything on the table. We say, listen, we're going to make up our mind. We're gonna deal with it, and we're going to address it together. It's not your debt, and you spend the rest of your life in a con having to pay it off, and I'm living a life of luxury. We both put these things on, et cetera, et cetera. Now, you said something very important about your first wife, this not being ready. The truth is, it's not so much
And,
about.
and when she left, we'd already done 15 years.
Wow. So you see, so the thing about it is, now, I mean, I can't even think, why would anyone divorce you? Look at you, you're such a stand-up guy. We look back on ourselves and we say to ourselves, why did I hold out in that? Why was it so important for me to be right in that argument? And it's when we start to analyze ourselves, we see that there are parts of us that just, I don't know, it wasn't surrendered. It's not that we weren't ready to surrender aspects of ourselves to the other person. And when it talks about submission, Ephesians speaks about being submitted one to another, not just women being submitted to men. So I have to learn to submit my will to my wife and vice versa. And so the dance, there's this, I call it this dance that takes place. As she submits, I cover. As I cover, she submits. But she doesn't wait for me to cover before she submits. And I don't wait for her to submit before I cover. We do so knowing that the other person will reciprocate and respond to what we bring to the table.
I'd like to touch back on what Bishop Blair said about the love, because I think people have a skewed idea of what love is. And I want to put this thought out there, since we're looking at prerequisites. Is love truly a prerequisite for marriage? Right? The idea of love itself, in terms of you having an emotional attachment. That is a very important. Now, in my view, just to be a little bit controversial to a lot of people's thought, I don't necessarily agree. Yes, you can develop that love for your husband, but at the end of the day, Sir Blair, if you can attest to this, when you are in front of the judge doesn't ask you if you still love him or you still love her. It's not the basis for the for you separating or coming back together. The judge won't ask you that. So is love truly a true prerequisite in that sense? Really?
Maybe it's a PK thing because I've told people that I don't believe that love is the foundation
Mm-hmm.
or the cement of a marriage, because modern day people fall in and fall out.
Yeah.
But I do believe that you can grow in love.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as I said to my wonderful ex-wife, because I spoke to her the other day and was giving her some praise regarding some situation. I said to her when I started calling her back, I'm a man of love, I'm a man of peace. And she gave me a snide remark, and my response was, I never left you, you left me. So you left me when I was still loving you. And I told her the other day, and most people would not do the things I do because I'm a crazy kind of guy. I told her the other day, I still love you.
Yeah.
I'm married, and I'm married to somebody I love, and I'm cemented in love with. But she is the mother of my two children, and she carries my granddaughter to church every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her how much I appreciate these things. So in for me, it was a matter of developing a love,
Mm-hmm.
and building on that love. And I've always said to people, what makes me different is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have so much love in me, and you as a safe pass, a safe PK will identify. I have so much love in me that I have so much more than I can handle. And for me, it's about understanding, and this is most important in
Mm-hmm.
marriage and in relationships. I've been loved by God, and
Mm-hmm.
and as a child growing up in the church, I always said to the Lord, "How can I get married when I can't be faithful to you?" And
Ah.
he taught me to love him because of his love for me. And so no matter what a woman does to me, I'm gonna love and forgive her. Because God has loved and forgiven me, Bishop. And I can't just turn my back on somebody because they failed me in something when I have understood that the reason why I am not facing hell is
Mm-hmm.
because God's love maintains me. And people don't understand the depth of that love. So I judge my relationships based on how my relationship with God developed me.
Mm. So if it is that we're looking at the common law relationships, if if these two parties doesn't have a relationship with God, so to speak,
It's hard.
would it be safe to say that this marriage will basically not marriage, the union, so to speak, will basically sustain itself?
Well, I'm not one of those overly religious persons that tell people you can't survive without God in a marriage, because
Yeah,
some
yeah.
people genuinely care about each other.
Hmm.
But I'll tell you, having God in your life
Yeah.
makes the difference, because I've seen myself fail Him so many times, and then He calls me up and goes, "I love you," and then He says to me, "I need you to forget about yourself. I need you to go down the road and prophesy to this person." And I'm like, "Oh God, help me!"
Definitely understand, man.
And that's the love of God, you know. The thing about the love of God is it's all about Him, and I've had to submit to that. So
Mm.
people don't understand the power of submission. They don't understand the power of obedience, and those are very important things. Oh, we have 5 more minutes before the break, but I do want to ask you, Daniel,
Mhm.
a young person listening to Bishop Grandison today about entering marriage and the prerequisites and the different things. Um, does that make them afraid? Does that make them afraid to enter a marriage knowing that they have to talk about money? Because the biggest things that break down marriage is money, communication, and sex, right?
Mm.
Um, you have to share you want to, do you or do you not share your account? How do you approach these things? For me, going into a marriage, I saw my father treat my mother like a queen. So every woman in my life is a queen, which is why I asked my ex, "How are you leaving and I treat you so good?" And she goes, "I just need to go." And eventually she explained why. And I understood. because many people just enter because
Mhm.
of the thing called marriage, and but what are you hearing? What are you feeling on the ground there?
All right, cool. So I must first say, without you knowing the purpose of something, inevitably there will be an abuse for that thing. Um, and then again, yes, you would have mentioned that our household, the typical average household within our society, is matrifocal. So right there and then, there is no good standard to what to look forward to in terms of marriage, right? And then of course you'd have other cases where there are breakup, divorces, etc., domestic abuse. So this itself paints or taints the picture of what marriage ought to be. I believe this really contribute to our youth now in society in the terms of them just thinking about you know again, yes, not sticking through and not being able to say okay, to look forward, to delve into that area. um I'm not sure how much I can be able to say on that, but to be honest with you, Sir Blair, um a lot of us really needs a reintroduction to really what marriage is, right? Of course, I am fortunate enough to be in a household, um thank God, where my parents are married up to this day. Yes, they had their differences and so forth, but for me personally, I do look forward to have a successful marriage, and based on the foundational footprint that my parents would have laid out, I do have a level of expectation. So for each individual, yes, it's relative based on their background. But if there are youths even listening now, I would encourage you, if it is that you're in a family household which is not so of a good representation of what marriage ought to be, look to other persons. There are other marriages, there are other people within society who are having good foundational relationships, and mimic that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to go back to Cleon for a minute before we go to the break in the next 2 minutes. In my research, I found that common law couples in the Jamaican setting, after 5 years, they get certain rights and privileges and obligations. Um, has marriage come to the point where it's really just something about rights and obligations, or because well, not even marriage, but people stay together in those units because they get certain rights, they don't have to worry about anything. um is it the fear of covenant? Is it the fear? One of the things people tell me, because I've had couples who were common law for 11 years and went through sessions with them, and they get married, and after 3 years they separate.
Mm.
Well, and forgive me if I can't comment on the Jamaican context as well as you guys are. But what I find in a lot of households, especially where there's the common law situation, is that the husband or the man is the greater earner, whereas the woman has stayed home, raised children, never had much in terms of income or any sort of so she to if anything happens, she will be left on sort of deserted, and um people, it's not so much about rights, it's about protecting women from total devastation, because there are men who will, after how many years of building a life with a woman, just walk away, and because they have not had a time to build a career or to or a business, whatever, end up being left destitute. And I think that system is making sure that women aren't being um 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 there's a word I'm looking for, but anyway, but just to make sure that women are treated fairly, and it can happen vice versa. There are powerful women who have husbands who have stayed at home and raised children and don't have much of a career. But the thing about covenant and marriage is that there's a greater, I think, a greater level of trust. It's like, but then again, it's like people who have prenups, prenup agreements where they say, well, I'll marry you, but if anything happens, you won't get more than 50 pence or $2 or whatever, because I don't want you to clean me out. So even when there is marriage contracts, there's
Yeah.
still a lack of trust. And so with covenant, with marriage, it cannot just be about the contract. It has to be about covenant.
Thank you much. We're going to go to our break, but a big thing, especially with Bishop Grandison saying that he was not very aware of what's happening in Jamaica. I should say that in the UK, common law marriage is not legal. And so you do find certain things impacting relationships there, compared to what's happening in Jamaica. And it was cut away from legality in 1753. One of those things that helped to build a society, the fabric of the society, marriage and the family. We'll be right back here on The Rock with more on marriage. Welcome back. I enter this last half hour or last 20 minutes of our program with some research, and once again pulling on the great bishop from the United Kingdom, because I believe in marriages. I sat back recently and looked at several middle-aged people that I know, 40s, 50s, and out of that group, people I grew up with, probably 75% are divorced. And my question often is, where's the fight? Then in my research, looking at everything and the word commonly used by Bishop Grandison today, from my earlier studies many years ago, they would name finances, communication, children, money as four of the top things that causes marriages to break down. Now, I'm looking at several studies, and a close look at the reasons for divorce. The number one, over 73% in many cases, a lack of commitment, a diminished desire to put effort into making your relationship work, because it takes effort. Something goes wrong, it takes effort, it takes forgiveness. And then, we've got to deal with the poor communication, the lack of compromise, the absence of everyday kindness, but effort, the lack of commitment. Bishop Cleon Grandison. No, I mean, it's just that I'm Bishop, yes, but I know the man. Just call me Steve. Anyway, Rev, the whole thing of failure in marriages, I'd like to use maybe about 10 minutes look at that before I ask my final question. What is the church doing, and is the church doing enough? But failure. Lack of commitment is one. Another one is people can't take all the arguing. Another, infidelity. I remember when I was told that she was leaving, I go, but I'm not cheating. Where are you going? Because I just thought people only left because of infidelity. Some get married too young. Some have. Here's another word that we haven't used all day, but very important to my teaching on marriage: expectations, unrealistic expectations. Then we have people unequally yoked, not just religiously, but in their handling of money, in their handling of children, their handling of the house, all of these things. Bishop Grandison, we need your wisdom. Why so many failures?
Dear.
Before you even answer, let me go back to some, if I can find the statistics here, because it really touched me when I was reading this earlier in regards to all that's happening around us, that people are not looking at these issues. Maybe I'll bring them back up later in terms of the numbers, but unequally yoked, religious, family values. Um, People can't decide who does what work in the house, finances, violence, everything like domestic violence. Everything's just happening, and people aren't working things out.
Okay. So I think what I want to say, and I feel I'm putting on my pastoral hat now. Even though your marriage has failed, you are not a failure. Whoever that is, do not feel as if you are a failure because your marriage failed. Because that's one of the devastating things is that people go away thinking that, I have nothing left and I'm a failure. So that's the first thing I want to say to those who have gone through that particular season. As for the reasons why marriages break down, you've listed them, the expectations and everything else. That's one of the reasons why in the conversations we have, we even talk about we talk about how many children do you want to have, and if your parents become old and sick, who are they going to live with? We talk about everything because there's so many things that we don't think about when we're young and sprightly, and these things are gonna. We don't talk about things like pensions and stuff. And Steve, I'm sure that's the only thing that we're concerned about: how much the pension is gonna give us. Daniel doesn't have a clue about what we're talking about. Now we're saying, can we give this up? And don't have to. But you see, at different seasons of our life, but it's a willingness to talk about pretty much everything. It does. You may not go into in depth into everything, but there's a willingness to talk about those things. And I think with this whole thing about marriage and the breakup and the failures and the lack of effort, I'll put it this way: my wife is very loving, but I have not always been lovely. I have been a real pain at times because I'm Bishop Grandison. I'm the overseer, and my this has to happen, and the role is there, and the churches are waiting on me, and I've
The
got this
stress is there.
and everything else. And the bottom line is that I have to put on hold. I have to put on hold my importance to make sure that my wife is priority.
Yeah, it's so important, so important because so much is happening. And I think you called you. I can't remember what you mentioned regarding your wife at the start of the program, but in terms of her assistance, her understanding, um, and so marriages are failing because that understanding isn't there sometimes. I remember when I was told in 2003 by my ex-wife as prison chaplain of 3 prisons. And one day I went home and she said to me, "You're not the same person anymore." And I'm working hard, changing everybody's lives, changing the prison. But she says to me, the it's not just the stress, but the prison life and the prison mandate is upon you. You just seem like somebody inside of prison. And I had to take note of that and just calm myself down. When I drive home in the evening, I stop, take a breath, and calm down because of communication. Something to me that changed my existence. Um, I found in the study that says here that, like in America now, America is so different from the world, and we've got to be careful. Like in Jamaica, where when America sneezes, we get a cold. Um, the rest of the world, the statistics a few years ago was saying 4 divorces every 1,000 marriages, but in America, up to 20 every 1,000. Big difference. And it's just the fast paced way of life, the influences, the breakdown of the family, and everything that's happening here is in America. Is we see elements of it in the Jamaican setting. And then, of course, the question. Well, let me not go to that one yet. Let's continue on this first. Let me bring in Sir Daniel. I just knighted you. You know, I have a British subject on. Of course, I'm
Mhm.
also British, but not as sounding British as the great Clay and Grandison.
Lord help me.
um, young, I throwing some of the young people issues to you, but do you think, even in your perspective, in your situations, going into something like a marriage and other young people, that all of these thoughts as to the things being mentioned by Bishop, um, are we of the same religion? Because I find a lot of people who don't care if they're marrying um, somebody from a different church group, um, the finances, all of these issues. Are young people thinking about these things as they go into marriages?
My God. The
Are they
first thing,
thinking about what's causing failures before they try to have success?
my God, the first thing that comes to mind is that how can two walk together unless they agree?
Well, they agree on sex.
But is that enough for an
At least,
agreement?
at least at the start.
Definitely, definitely. But we know, based on what I have observed, of course, that that of itself doesn't last. And I am afraid to say, but yes, I believe that a lot of people don't think about some of the things. Yes, Bishop Grandison, about the pension and all those stuff. Yes, we don't think about all of the requirements required for the marriage. And as relates to belief and just religion even, right? Not because we're both Christians means that um you know all is well for us to dig into this. I mean, of course, there's different doctrines, beliefs from different denominations and stuff like that, and that is a hindrance. So I don't believe that a lot of young people really think about these things. It's like, say, okay, I love you, you love me, let me just get together and have a big happy family, right? That's just the mindset for most young people, and most young people don't think ahead.
All right, we're going towards the last few minutes of the program. Um, Before I ask a question regarding the church, several years ago, especially during the time of Mr. Obama, a lot was said regarding marriage moving to not being between one man and one woman. And
Mm.
it was taken to our schools. Well, around the world, it started looking more and more in that direction. And we saw changes happening. We saw changes happening in countries. Uh, what is it like in the UK, Cleon, with that
Well,
issue?
yeah, it's no, it's it is it's definitely a thing. What you find is a good 65% or so of people, or more, will tell you that they do agree in same-sex relationships and marriage. Um, and then it's not helped by the fact that the Methodist Church will, along with the Methodist Church and
Presbyterian has it
the
too.
United Reform Church, they will perform same-sex ceremonies. The Anglicans will bless a relationship in the churches, and then I think the Baptist, there's lots of toing and froing, and so for you as a Pentecostal who will hold your ground on the way that you see marriage, even amongst church circles, you're starting to be ostracized or to be vilified or to be looked at as being backward and not with the times. So it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge. So I know in America, one person is literally campaigning on the strength of that, of same-sex relationships and all the other things. because it's almost like a vote winner these days. It is a deception from the pit of hell. It is a deception, and it's such a pity when we don't have alternatives, Steve. That's my thing. And unfortunately, Christian marriages are failing at the same rate as non-Christian marriages. And so when you don't have something to hold up as the church, it's a struggle. But still, yet we still have to hold fast to the fact that God has God's idea of marriage is between a man and a woman. And
all right, so let's go to the final question. I'm going to read in a few minutes two comments, one from Kevin Thompson and one from Sharon Miller. But the final question then for both of you, and I'll start with you, Daniel. Is the church doing enough? Is the church doing and saying enough to encourage strong marriages? Do we even preach in our sermons? Do we even take time to make it a priority?
In my honest opinion, I don't believe so. A lot of people who look forward to get married, it's always the last few weeks before exchanging. Well, if I may put this, the counseling sessions, I don't believe are enough. And I'm not sure. I don't believe that our churches are really.
Conversations, Brethren, the conversations. Man of God says no counseling. Conversations.
All right, so the conversations, yes, the conversations. If that alone can suffice, no. The forums, I'm not sure. Let me say I'm not sure, but I don't believe that we are having enough conversations. I'm gonna put that there. Conversations around the vital areas of what to look forward to, the expectations, certain conversations about marriage and just between a man and a woman. They're not. We're not blunt with certain topics. Just being honest, we're not blunt with certain topics. It's kind of.
I talk about sex so much in my church, and I talk about my love for women so much in my church that if one of my young people have sex,
it's almost like a taboo.
I will know by tomorrow because they'll tell me.
Yeah, it's almost like a taboo. So, it's like for us as young people, we have a blinder over our eyes going into this thing, right? Yeah. And we're just expected to know, and we're not properly taught. So no, sadly, we have to go to outside sources, read other books, hear opinions, thoughts from other people who are not a part of the fold, and that's what's happening.
Clear?
Well, I think my thing is, okay, so as Daniel just said, rightly so. Are you married, by the way, Daniel?
Oh no, sir. I am happy single.
Listen, I have some young ladies. Okay, no, that's another story. I don't want to get in trouble. No. This is the thing. We prepared people for marriage.
Yeah.
Once you get into it, to the driving seat, there are all kinds of challenges. It's how do I maneuver? It's how do I
constant learning experience.
It's how do I deal with the first argument? How do I deal with my pride being crushed? How do I deal with a wife that has become sick or unable to cope mentally or whatever? All of these things happen in marriage, and we don't really think about it. What is needed, like we do in England, what we have to do every year, we have to have what we call an MOT with the car. So you have to bring it in, and the gentleman in the garage will have to go all over it, do all the tests to see if it's roadworthy. Marriages need MOTs every so often. Don't suffer in silence. Don't forget about the shame of a marriage that is breaking down. You'll be surprised how many other people are in the same boat. Regular times of coming together, marriages, people who are in, and I know that in Jamaica you have some really great people who do those retreats. Those times of being able to share openly. I know the time is gone, but that will save a marriage. Don't suffer in silence.
Okay. I want to thank you, gentlemen. I got to wrap up the program. Thank you for joining us today. Hope to have you again very soon, Claire. Really appreciated having you. And all the best to yourself and the New Testament Church of God in the United Kingdom. Daniel, big up.
Blessings.
And I pray blessings upon you as you walk towards that road, right?
Definitely.
All right. Let's just wrap up the program real quick, Kathy and Nadine. On WhatsApp, greetings, Brother Blair. The right attitude to enter in a marriage relationship, as with just about anything, is to establish a right relationship with God, our Creator, according to His Word. When we do this, we will endeavor to allow the Holy Spirit to guide us in every aspect of our lives. It is when we put God aside and self in front that we do not deal with issues right. Another issue: true love never fails. If God chooses that wife or husband for you, until death do us part. Personality differences play a part of marital breakdowns, but it is more than hardness of heart that causes this. Also on Facebook, Kevin Thompson. Well, Sharon Miller says, you can go back to Sharon. The reason for so many broken marriages is that we get married for the wrong reason. I was a Christian, but never see God for a partner. Firstly, I thought I was getting old. I was 26. Secondly, I thought the perfect partner would be in church. And thirdly, I thought that my party could bring me happiness. I couldn't be anywhere further from the truth. My marriage was 17 years of hell. I've been divorced for 13 years now. Still single and couldn't be happier because it was during my divorce, and it continues. Kevin Thompson, our last one for the day, says, profound topic for such a time as this. We see where many marriages are falling apart, but I think it's a lack of love and trustworthy, or also their commitment towards their partners. As I go today, I want to encourage you. I know this is mainly a Christian audience, so I add this. I cut out Sunday night service when I was pastoring in the Cayman Islands because I did an interview with my church members, and I asked, when do you spend time together as a family? They said Sunday after church. I said, when do you rest? They said Sunday after church. And I realized that they were not spending time together because members in the church their marriages were falling apart. So I told them, stay home, take your family out for ice cream, carry your families to the movies, spend time together, get to know each other again. And that is what I did. I think the church needs to do more. I met with every couple in my church before I left Cayman because I think it is important. And finally today, Christian marriages are failing because we're not submitting to God. Submission says, okay, I will do what I need to do for my marriage. And I encourage you, that commitment is everything that God has demands of you. Commit to Him first and commit to your spouse. God bless you. I thank you for joining us today. Happy to be back with you. It's been 4 weeks that I've been off the air because of several different factors. Another uncle in the hospital today, but I believe that I needed to be with you. So thank you for being with me. God bless you. See you next week right here on The Rock on Love 101. I'm Bishop Harold Blair Jr.